Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be showcasing both mine and Josh's free hits ahead of Game Week 34. Very much looking forward to it. Of course, a lot of you managers also free hitting. As you're probably aware, this is not going to be finalised just yet. Probably still a lot of changes to come. But in terms of the structure of the team, I expect the core of both our teams to remain fairly similar in terms of how it looks between now and the deadline. Without further ado, let's get into Josh's team.
Okay then, yeah, so getting into my free hit team for Game Week 34. This is my last chip of the season, so we really need it to sort of pay off. At the time of recording, we're at Wednesday night, so we haven't seen the double games of the double game week. So yeah, it should be interesting. Obviously 198k at the moment. It's a small green arrow as it stands. Played the bench boost last week, so hoping for a bigger green arrow than that, and then hopefully this free hit can, fingers crossed, push us into the top 100k. If I finish top 100k this season, I'll be absolutely buzzing with it, to be honest, just because of how poor of a season it's really been. So yeah, getting into the team, as you can see, it's a rogue lineup. I've never played five at the back, I don't think, ever before in FPL. There's probably good reason for it, but for this week I'll go into it as to why I think that this could be the way that I set up. And I'm not even doing it just for the video. I'm genuinely tempted to play it. I'm probably 80% certain to play at least a four back, at the very least anyway. So yeah, getting in goal, we've got Jose Sarr. This is the big one for me, as to who plays in goals for Wolves, because Sarr got taken out of the team against United in the warm-up, and Bentley played in goal. So it's one to watch. Our friend Jimmy G, FPL Jimmy G, make sure you check him out on TikTok. He's a massive Wolves fan and said that Vitor Pereira is usually quite honest and will sort of give us an update to that. So yeah, fingers crossed we get something confirmed. If not, I can sort of maybe, mix it around. But to be honest, with the defenders that I've got on my team, I really like how attacking all of them are. And if I went to a Wolves defender instead and went for a goalkeeper from one of those other teams, it wouldn't be as nice looking, in my opinion. So that could, potentially disrupt that back five and make it a back four. We'll have to wait and see. Ryan Sessegnon's the first pick. We mentioned him in our free hit video. Out of position, playing right wing at 4.1 million. He's an absolute steal at the moment, and he's one of those players that non-free hitters probably can't get to. So yeah, really looking forward to owning him if he does play against Southampton away. His minutes aren't assured by any means. He could easily be benched. So one to watch out for, but it could be a huge differential come round to the deadline. Ryan Aït-Nouri is up next, sort of picks himself. I'd be shocked to see him under 60% EO this week. A lot of normal managers anyway will have him as well, with Leicester at home this week, who obviously really struggle for goals. I wouldn't really double up on a Wolves defence unless I was pretty confident in a clean sheet, and Leicester just really struggle to score goals at the moment. Anthony Robinson is up next, probably overshadowed by Sessegnon in the community this week, but equally, I think he has like 11 assists this season, so the attacking threat is very much still there with him. Southampton away, prime fixture. Southampton are generally worse at home than they are away from home, so it's even better that it's an away fixture for Fulham this week. And then it's Livramento and Trippier on the double up for the defence. Ipswich at home this week, both really attacking. Trippier on set pieces. I expect a clean sheet for Newcastle. Obviously, all these teams that I'm picking, bar Wolves here, have European places to play for. So it's not as if it's a beach and they're going to concede lots of goals. They have things to play for, and it's really crucial, especially in those Champions League places, that the goal difference matters a lot, especially for Newcastle after conceding 4 against Aston Villa. So Ben, 5 at the back, what's the thoughts?
It's rogue. It's very rogue, but it's very differential. And a lot of these assets, they're not going to be more than you have your Aït-Nouri's at 60-70%, maybe Robinson, Sessegnon, but having them all in one go is going to be a differential in itself, especially the double up in Newcastle and Wolves defence. I think that's going to be sort of fairly differential compared to anyone else, but I don't actually mind it too much. I do think you're sort of putting your eggs in one basket, which I think is exactly how you should be playing a free hit. You're sort of backing 3 clean sheets in there. And if you get 2 of them, then you're probably on your way to a green arrow, which is good. So you've got to just make sure that 2 of the 3 don't concede, basically. So yeah, I don't mind it at all. There's a lot of attacking threat in all of those defenders, which I think is absolutely crucial. including one playing essentially as a winger. So, yeah, I don't mind it too much. Whether it's overkill or not, I'm not sure. But of course, you're going to limit yourself in terms of attacking options to go for as a result. But that's just going to have to be sort of the risk you've got to weigh up.
Yeah, 100%. So going on to those attacking options, and we're in the midfield straight away. Luis Diaz and Salah are the double up on Liverpool attack. I expect them to wrap up the league title against Spurs. Spurs will have one eye on the Europa League semi-final against Bodo Glimt, which is played a few days later after this. So, yeah, I expect Spurs, to be honest, to roll over and Liverpool to win pretty comfortably at home. Diaz is pretty assured for minutes. Salah, obviously, as well. He does have my armband at the time recording as well. He's really unlucky not to return against Leicester. He hit both posts at one stage with the shot. I think it was inside 3 minutes, and in general looked pretty dangerous against Leicester, which you'd expect. But yeah, obviously on a bit of a blanking run. Same could be said for Isak a little bit as well. Obviously he has been returning, but he hasn't necessarily hit the heights that he should have been doing. So it'll be an interesting one for captaincy this week. I expect both of them to be over 100% EO anyway. So whoever you go for, the other one's not going to be helping you out, which is interesting because you could potentially go against them if you really felt like it. And then Iwobi wraps up the midfield. He's my pick at the moment. This one could be anyone really. It's like, basically a little punt in the midfield. Quite like the fixture, obviously, with Southampton away. It could be Mbumo, it could be Justin Kluivert. Again, same applies to that United team. It's going to be heavily rotated. They're going to be focused on Europa League. Bournemouth need the points. Penalty taker, I quite like it. One player that I probably won't consider for midfield that a lot of people that I've seen have been is Cole Palmer. I'm just not a massive fan of the fixture initially. Everton at home is not as easy as what it was at the start of the season, especially since David Moyes has come in, and obviously Cole Palmer's form as well is something that is it's not there. You think he's got like one goal this year, so yeah, he needs to step it up for me to include him. And obviously, equally, Chelsea also have the Conference League on the cards as well. So, there's no guarantee of 90 minutes with him. We've seen it before the Conference League that he, has been taken off early there as well. So, yeah, what's the thoughts on the midfield, Ben? And who would you go for in terms of that Iwobi pick?
I think your midfield is fairly solid, actually, all things considered. Of course, like you said, it's not ideal, I don't think, to not be able to sort of go all guns blazing in midfield and attack. But there is a limitation in terms of options as well, and in terms of point ceiling. You're seeing a bit more of a point ceiling in those defenders at the moment than you are maybe in that third midfielder that you're considering. So, there's a case to be made for that. I don't mind the Liverpool double up at all. I think Salah is good to have in there, and of course if we're recording this before the Arsenal game takes place. If Arsenal end up losing and Liverpool secure the title, I'm sure maybe that Diaz pick will sort of shift to someone else, just based on sort of like the game state that we should expect from that game. But yeah, I think again, targeting those promoted sides in Iwobi is a decent pick. And yeah, I see your rationale behind the Cole Palmer pick, in terms of not going for him. Of course, it takes up a lot of budget in there as well. So, if you do have him as well as Salah, you're sort of limited maybe on the other assets you can bring in. You may not be able to bring in, for example, Trippier, etc. So, yeah, I think that from your point of view, it's good rationale behind the decisions.
Okay, then to wrap up the team with the forwards, it's the two most picked forwards probably for this week in Mateus Cunha and Isak. For me, there's not really anyone else that I'd be considering. Maybe Chris Wood, but I certainly wouldn't be starting him ahead of these two. You could look at Raul Jimenez, but for me, the minutes aren't quite there. If I knew, say, if Muniz was injured and Jimenez was going to play, then I'd be all over it, obviously. But yeah, for me, it's a bit of a risk going with him at the moment, which could pay off by all means. He could get a hat trick in the first half. It is Southampton we are talking about here, so yeah, it's an interesting one. But I'll probably play it quite safe with obviously the limited amount of attackers that I do have if I do go for this strategy, just due to the EO of some of these guys. Isak well in excess of 100%. I'd expect Cunha to be quite high, although relatively differential still as well. What's the thoughts on that forward line, Ben? Are you sort of in agreement in terms of like it's those two and somebody else sort of thing?
Yeah, it's those two plus one for a free hit, in my opinion. I think that's probably the safest route to go, and that's also the two most explosive strikers potentially in the league at the moment, in terms of points they'll be able to produce for you. And then, yeah, it's a case of plus another of the options that we mentioned, Chris Wood, Raul Jimenez, maybe Evan Nielsen if you're wanting to go a little bit sort of left field with the picks there. But yeah, all in all, like it's a fairly strong starting 11, and the two strikers that you've got in are the two strikers I would absolutely recommend anyone owning for a free hit. Okay, so moving on into my team, and currently ranked 87k before that Manchester City Villa game. Hopefully, I'll be sat at, or I don't know, 75, 80k is probably what I'm hoping for, but you just don't know. The aim for me, I guess, this season is to try and break 50k. That would be incredible, but it's going to be a bit of a push to get there from this position. So starting off in goal, we've got Leno in goal, and we've also gone with a double up in the Fulham defence. Southampton away is a really good fixture, and I am getting more and more tempted as time goes by to maybe include Sessegnon in that. For me, I think I'm going to stick with the three at the back and go sort of from there. I do agree with Josh. I think the five at the back could be an option, but for me, I just want to attack it with my forwards and midfielders as well. So going with a three at the back seems most sensible for me. And I think in terms of free hits, like you could go pretty much any formation this week and it will look viable. Like in a lot of weeks where there's free hits, everyone will go 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 and nothing else looks viable. But there's so many options that we've got available to us that I do think you can get away with that. So we've also gone with Ait-Nouri from Wolves. I just think that fixture at home to Leicester is fantastic. And, I've got, spoiler alert, I've got two Wolves players. I very well could go for a third, but it's just sort of picking out who you'd want. Like, of course, other than sort of like Josh went for Jose Sarr, other than that, there's no like real attacking options other than maybe like a Strand Larsen that you'd want to go for. So you are limited somewhat in that regard. And then we've also gone with Livramento. So yeah, I do think the triple up Newcastle can be viable. You could even double up on the defence there if you're not sure about the midfielders' minutes. Josh, fairly similar in terms of a defence and in the core and structure of it. What's your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I like it quite a lot. Leno in general is a solid pick if you're not fancying the risk of Sessegnon as well. If you think he's not going to play, or if he indeed is leaked, or we potentially find out before the deadline that he won't start, then I think Leno's probably second best option in that defence. Ait-Nouri, obviously we spoke about him already, and Livramento I do like from open play how creative he's been, especially in that double game week. I can see the similar sort of thing happening against Ipswich. Obviously Ipswich are without Leif Davis as well, which they haven't been without I don't think all season, so it's going to be quite a big miss for them, especially in how they defend as well, so it'll be interesting to see how they go on.
Okay, so moving on into midfield, and I think this is the area that I think could change maybe once or twice before the deadline. One of that is Josh Murphy. I'm very sort of torn between him and Harvey Barnes. I'm thinking more Harvey Barnes for the form, but Murphy's playing just equally as well. So we'll have to see what that looks like by the time we get to the deadline. We've got Salah in there, not on the captaincy. Again, a pretty 50-50 call between Salah and probably Isak for the captaincy for most managers. At the moment, I'm sat on the side of Isak rather than Salah. That could very well change, throughout the week. And backing against Salah's scary. I've not done it really at all this season. But on a free hit, you're almost sort of in a case of, well, you can captain almost everyone in your team. I've seen a few sort of left field shouts for captaincy in the Twitter community anyway. So you could go a bit different if you wanted to. We've now got Cole Palmer in, and everything stats wise is pointing that he'll blank this week. The form, the fixture, everything is pointing towards a blank. But I just can't help but have Cole Palmer with a home fixture in a free hit. We've seen what he can do and can be capable of. Whether he can do that again, I don't know. Like the minutes risk there slightly as well. But all it takes is a penalty or a tapping, and all of a sudden, early doors you're looking at a mega haul, and we've seen that in previous years. And I'm just not sure I want to miss out on that if that happens. A low EO Cole Palmer against Everton at home. Yes, Everton have got a good defensive record, but Chelsea absolutely still have everything to fight for. I'm not sure as much Everton do compared to sort of what's on the line for Chelsea at the moment with potential Champions League football. I think if they don't get it, it's an absolute disaster for the club. So they're going to have to start getting results. And I think, this sort of Fulham game was a wake up call. That could sort of be the catalyst to almost sort of finish their season in a positive light. So that's the reason, really, I've got Cole Palmer. It's not for anything else other than I think that Fulham game could have been a catalyst for something a little bit better going forward in terms of performances. And then we've got Mburmo in there as well. So 3 out of 4 are penalty takers, which is exactly what I want to go into a free hit. I want as many penalty takers as possible, I want as many routes to points as physically possible for myself. And Mburmo against Forest away, he's in great form, and like I said, Forest conceding a lot of shots, a lot of XG. I don't think like a mega sort of like 15-20 point haul is on, but I think 9 or 10 points, a return and some bonus points, I'll be fairly happy with that. Josh, what's the thoughts on the midfield?
Yeah, it's strong overall. Obviously, we discussed the Newcastle mids in our free hit video quite in detail. So if you want to go check that out, please do. But we said basically that it's a bit of a 50-50 between all of them as to what sort of minutes they're going to be getting. I think it would be quite similar for the two that start, and then the one that comes off is going to get probably 30 minutes. And obviously Jacob Murphy's been in really good form so far, so yeah, I don't see a reason why not to go with him. I just think the minute security is obviously a little bit better with the double defence, but again, like we said in that video, the minutes risk players a lot of managers aren't going to go with, so they could be your biggest differentials heading into this week. I think Salah's interesting for captaincy. It's going to be a close one. I don't think there'll be much between Isak and Salah in terms of points this week. And in terms of going differential for captaincy, I wouldn't do it personally on a free hit, because your team's going to be so differential as it is, because no one can build the best 11 for every game week. So yeah, for me, I think I'd just keep it on Salah or Isak, whichever one you sort of prefer in that regard. Palmer, I do get what you're saying with him. Obviously, he's a fantastic footballer. Let's not get it wrong. And like you say, it does take a penalty. I do remember captaining him though, and he had a penalty and he missed it, which was which was really, really annoying. So maybe I'm a little bit biased against him, but yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, playing devil's advocate as well. They don't have James. Well, they probably won't have James Tarkowski. He came off of an injury at the weekend. Michael Keane came in. You could argue that that's definitely not as stronger defence as what it usually is, with Tarkowski playing like every single minute of every single game ever for Everton. So yeah, it's an interesting pick. For me, I probably won't go near it, but I can definitely get the rationale through people picking him, and I wouldn't turn your nose up and go against him. Mbumo's the one that interests me the most at the moment. I think he's the one that could potentially replace Iwobi in my team with the penalties, the free kicks. Like you say, the routes to points with him is a lot higher than someone like Iwobi. So it's just a case of whether you want to play with that or whether you want to play with the fixture. Obviously, with Southampton away this week. I wouldn't be expecting an 18-pointer like you say, but I would be expecting something out of that game, given that both sides have everything to play for.
Okay, so moving into the strike force, and of course, like me and Josh both said, Isak and Cunha in there for me. Like I said, essential for me on the free hit. And then the third striker I've currently gone for is Raul Jimenez. I think that his minutes are going to be secure, just because I've seen sort of a few rumours about Muniz maybe sort of looking at leaving, maybe being a little bit injured as well. So it points more towards Raul Jimenez start, and 60 to 65 minutes, I'd say, is probably what I'm estimating he will get in terms of minutes. And the fixture is sort of the reason that you'd look to go for Raul Jimenez. He's going to be a big differential. Again, all 3 of these I expect to be on penalties going into this game week. So going for sort of as many penalty takes as possible is looking like the strategy for me on this free hit. And I don't mind it really at all. The only changes that I could possibly foresee, if it wasn't Raul Jimenez, it'd maybe be Chris Wood that I bring in to then maybe go for a midfielder for Fulham or something like that. We'll just have to wait and see. Josh, that's the team and how it's looking overall. What's your final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what you say of Jimenez. It'll be an interesting one. Obviously, he does have the penalties, which is massive. It's just hopefully he's on the pitch if they do get one. Andreas Pereira as well, someone that we can mention about penalties as well. If Raul Jimenez isn't on the pitch, it's likely that he would take it. He's quite cheap as well. I think around £5 million if you're looking a little bit rogue out there. But overall, yeah, team looks solid. Obviously, like we said, the forwards sort of pick themselves. It's just sort of those differential picks in the midfield and that final forward position that will hopefully be the difference between, you know, an okay free hit and a really good green arrow. Okay then, so that wraps up our team reveals for Game Week 34. It's our free hit time. It's our last chip of the season. It's been like back to back to back to back with the chips at the moment. So yeah, the final one is going. Obviously the deadline is Friday night. Wolves face Manchester City. So make sure you get your teams locked in before that deadline and do not miss this massive, massive important deadline.
Yeah, and as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL Graduates. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
next time. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you may rise, but you'll never make me wanna stick around you.